You're sitting at your favorite coffee shop, a perfect morning to grab a cup of your go-to brew before heading to work. The warm steam of freshly brewed coffee fills the air as the sun peeks through the window. It's a moment of comfort, a time to gather your thoughts before the grind of the day begins. You've got your life together, or so you think. Everything is going according to plan until, in a split second, it all changes. You reach for your cup, but in a moment of chaos, the cup slips from your hands, splashing hot coffee all over the person sitting next to you. You freeze. You can feel the heat of the embarrassment rising to your face. Oh no, you think, I just ruined this person's morning. But here's the twist. You don't realize that this is the moment that will completely change the course of your life. This isn't just some random stranger. No, this is someone far more important than you could ever imagine. And what happens next? Well, let's just say it's going to take you on a roller coaster ride of emotions, ambition, and maybe even a little bit of fate. You're probably wondering what happens next. I know. This is the part where you're hooked, right? You want to know if this embarrassing moment will become a turning point in the protagonist's life, and believe me, it will. But the question is, how? Stick with me, and I'll tell you exactly how it all plays out, and trust me, you won't see it coming. By the end of this story, you'll have your answer. So stay tuned, don't blink, and whatever you do, don't skip ahead. We're in this together now. Imagine yourself in this exact situation. You've just spilled coffee on someone you don't even know, and they're staring at you, their shirt stained and eyes wide with surprise. There's a part of you that wants to run and hide, to pretend it never happened. Maybe you apologize. Maybe you offer to pay for their dry cleaning. But then they smile at you in a way that seems strange, like they're hiding something, maybe even amused by the situation. You don't think much of it at first. After all, you're still in a haze of mortification. But that's when you realize this wasn't just an accident. It wasn't just some unlucky fluke. This moment, this embarrassing encounter, was the start of something far bigger. Now, let me ask you, have you ever had one of those what-if moments? You know, the ones where you look back and wish you could change just one tiny detail? What if you had gotten your coffee 5 minutes earlier? What if you hadn't reached for your phone just as you spilled that drink? Would everything have turned out differently? Or maybe you think, what if this wasn't an accident at all? What if there's something bigger at play, something beyond your control, something that's meant to happen? What happens next is the exact type of twist you'd never expect. You'll see how one small, seemingly insignificant moment can lead to a life-altering change. You'll understand how a single embarrassing incident can actually set the stage for new opportunities, new connections, and maybe even a complete transformation. And when it's all said and done, you'll be asking yourself, was this all just a coincidence? Or was there something bigger, something more mysterious at work here? But let me not get ahead of myself. I can already feel your curiosity building, and I want to make sure you stay with me for the full journey. Because the real question is, who is this stranger? And why does he seem so familiar? Why does his reaction feel different from what you'd expect from someone who just got coffee spilled all over them? Is it just coincidence that he's there at that exact moment in your life? Or is there something more? You might think you have the answers already. Maybe you're already forming theories in your mind. But here's the thing. You're not ready for what comes next. Just when you think you've figured it all out, a twist appears, a surprise that shakes everything up. And that's when you realize that you've just crossed paths with someone who's about to turn your life upside down. Stay with me, because this story is about to take an unexpected turn. You're not going to want to miss it. Trust me when I say that everything you think you know about this encounter is about to be flipped on its head. The person you thought was just another stranger will soon reveal themselves in a way that will completely change your understanding of the situation. And if you're thinking that this is just a random accident, let me tell you, you're wrong. This wasn't some coincidence. It was the start of something bigger. Something that will force you to rethink everything you know about fate, success, and the people who cross your path. The coffee spill? It's just the beginning. You'll soon find out that there's far more at play here than meets the eye. So, stick around. Trust me, this story is just getting started, and the answer to the question you're dying to know is coming soon. But first, let's rewind just a little bit. back to that moment when everything changed. That moment when one spilled cup of coffee set the stage for the most unexpected turn of events you could ever imagine. You'll be on the edge of your seat wondering, what's next? What happens when fate decides to intervene in the most awkward, embarrassing, yet life-changing way possible? And how does it all connect back to you? Ready for the answer? It's closer than you think. So keep watching, because the real story is about to unfold. And trust me, you won't want to miss a second. As the coffee spilled, splashing all over the stranger's crisp white shirt, the moment felt like time had frozen. For a few seconds, everything was silent. The world seemed to zoom in on the burning sensation of embarrassment flooding her cheeks, and her mind raced, replaying the disaster over and over again. She could hardly believe what had just happened. Was this really happening? Why now? Of all times, why did she have to be so careless today? It wasn't like she had never spilled a drink before, but this time it was different. The stranger's reaction was what stopped her in her tracks. Instead of the usual frown or harsh comment, he gave her a strange, almost knowing smile, as if he had expected something like this to happen. And it wasn't the type of smile someone gives when they're brushing off a mistake. No, this was different. It was a smile that seemed calculated, as though he knew more about her than she could even fathom in that moment. The man, dressed in an impeccably tailored suit, stood up slowly, adjusting his jacket. He looked down at the stain on his shirt with the kind of calmness that only someone who had seen far worse could maintain. There was no visible anger in his eyes, no trace of annoyance, and that, in itself, was unsettling. Most people would have reacted with frustration or even just a grumble under their breath, but not him. His expression remained neutral, almost like he was studying her every movement. "It's all right," he said, his voice smooth, almost comforting. "These things happen." But the way he said it, it made her feel like it was far from over. The words hung in the air, leaving her wondering if he was just being polite, or if there was something deeper at play. She stammered out an apology, feeling like she could disappear into the floor, her heart thudding loudly in her chest. Her mind was a blur. "I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to," she started, but he waved his hand dismissively, as though her apology wasn't even necessary. He glanced at his watch, then looked back at her with a calm, yet intense gaze. "It's really no big deal," he replied, but the way he said it made her feel like she was trapped in some kind of unspoken agreement. His eyes lingered just a moment too long, and she couldn't shake the feeling that he was waiting for something. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice softer now, but there was still an underlying sharpness to it, like he was trying to figure out what to do next. She nodded quickly, trying to play it off, even though her mind was racing. As she fumbled with napkins, trying to help him clean up the mess she had made, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this encounter than she understood. This wasn't just a random coffee spill. There was a strange energy in the air, an undercurrent of something she couldn't put her finger on. She couldn't help but wonder if this man was someone important. Was he a business executive? A celebrity? A lawyer? Something about him suggested that he wasn't just another regular guy. He had the air of someone who commanded respect, someone who had seen it all before. But what was he doing in a place like this, in a quiet corner cafe on an ordinary Tuesday morning? The answer, as she would soon discover, was something she never could have guessed. As he turned to leave, he handed her a business card, his fingers brushing hers for just a split second. "In case you need anything," he said, and with that, he walked out of the cafe, leaving behind nothing but the faint scent of his cologne and a lingering sense of mystery. She looked down at the card in her hand. It was sleek and simple, with a bold, black logo embossed on the front. The name on the card was one she didn't recognize at first, but the title below it made her pause. CEO of a major tech company. The name sent a jolt of recognition through her. She had heard of this company, of course. Who hadn't? They were one of the biggest players in the industry. She felt a sudden wave of disbelief wash over her. Could it really be him? Could she have just spilled coffee on one of the most powerful men in the city? She stood there for a long time, staring at the card, her mind racing. It didn't make sense. How could someone like him be in a place like this? And why would he even give her his business card after what just happened? Was he really offering her help? Or was there something else going on? She couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter was the beginning of something far bigger, something she couldn't yet understand. Back at home, the events of the day kept replaying in her mind. She couldn't focus on anything else. Who was this man? What did he want from her? She sat down at her desk and Googled his name, and what she found sent chills down her spine. His company was involved in cutting-edge innovations, projects that had the potential to change entire industries. But that wasn't all. She dug deeper, reading through interviews and articles, and slowly, a picture began to form. This man was no ordinary CEO. He was known for making bold moves, for seeing potential where others saw nothing. He was the kind of person who made billion-dollar decisions before breakfast. And he had just walked into her life in the most unexpected, bizarre way possible. Her thoughts were interrupted by a knock on the door. Her heart skipped a beat. Who could it be at this hour? She opened the door, and standing there, in the dim light of the hallway, was a courier with a package. It was from the company on the business card. She didn't know whether to be confused, excited, or terrified. She signed for it, her hands trembling as she took the package inside. What could this be? She opened it slowly, carefully peeling away the tape, and inside, there was a letter with her name written on it in elegant script. The letter simply read, "Let's talk. Tomorrow, 10 a.m. My office. Don't be late." Her pulse quickened. What was this all about? Why had he reached out to her? What did he want to discuss? She stared at the letter, her mind spinning. She had no idea what was coming next, but one thing was certain. This wasn't just about spilled coffee anymore. This was something much bigger, and she had just unknowingly walked into the kind of opportunity that most people only dreamed of. But at what cost? What did he want from her? And what did this strange twist of fate mean for her future? Tomorrow, she would find out. And whatever happened next, she knew her life would never be the same. The next morning, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She spent hours trying to prepare herself for the meeting, but no matter how much she tried to practice what she would say, the words never felt right. What did he want with her? Was it some kind of job opportunity, a promotion? Or something else entirely? The uncertainty gnawed at her. As she got ready, each step felt heavier, as though she was walking toward an unknown fate, one she couldn't control. She glanced at the clock, already 5 minutes behind. The office was a 20-minute drive away, and she couldn't afford to be late. But the second she stepped out the door, she felt that same feeling of dread creeping up her spine. What was she really walking into? She arrived at the towering glass building just as the clock struck 9:50 a.m. It loomed over her, intimidating in its size and modern architecture. Inside, the lobby was sleek and cold, its polished floors and high ceilings making her feel small. She walked up to the front desk, where a receptionist with a perfect smile greeted her. "Ms. Harper?" the receptionist asked, her voice polite but distant. "Mr. Donovan is expecting you. Please follow me." Her heart thudded in her chest as she followed the receptionist down a long hallway, past rooms filled with people working at their desks, heads down, busy with their own lives. She couldn't help but feel like she didn't belong here. She was just an ordinary woman, a barista from a local coffee shop. She wasn't a CEO, she wasn't rich, and she wasn't powerful. She was just trying to make it through each day, doing her best to get by. But somehow, she had found herself at the doorstep of a man who ran a multi-million-dollar empire. It felt surreal. The receptionist led her to a large set of double doors. "He's right through there," she said, gesturing for her to enter. "Good luck." With a deep breath, she pushed open the doors and walked into a room that took her breath away. The office was everything she had imagined a powerful CEO's office to be. The walls were lined with floor-to-ceiling windows, offering an impressive view of the city below. The desk was sleek and minimalist, covered in just a few essential items: a laptop, a phone, and a simple, elegant glass sculpture. And then, sitting behind the desk, was the man from the coffee shop, now looking even more formidable in his tailored suit, his dark hair perfectly styled. "Miss Harper," he said smoothly, looking up from his papers. I'm glad you could make it. His voice was calm, authoritative, but there was something in his eyes that she couldn't quite place. Something that made her uneasy. Please sit. She sat down, her mind racing. Thank you for inviting me, she managed to say, her voice trembling slightly despite her best efforts to remain composed. She had to admit, she had no idea what was going to happen here, but she was determined to keep it together. I'm not sure why I'm here, but I'm glad to meet you, Mr. Donovan. He smiled, but it was a slow, calculated smile, one that made her feel like he was measuring her every word, every movement. The pleasure is mine, he said. And I can understand your confusion. You're probably wondering why I asked you to come here after that rather unusual encounter we had. He paused, watching her closely. But sometimes, life brings us together in unexpected ways. That coffee spill? It wasn't an accident. Her heart skipped a beat. She hadn't expected him to say that. What do you mean? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. He leaned back in his chair, his eyes never leaving hers. Let me explain. I've been watching you for some time now, Miss Harper. Your work ethic, your determination, the way you handle difficult situations, it's impressive. You don't know this, but you've caught my attention. I've seen your potential. And I believe you're the right person for a very unique opportunity. She stared at him, trying to process what he was saying. Watching her? He'd been watching her? It felt like a punch to the gut. She had no idea what he meant, but something in his tone told her that this wasn't just about a job or some business deal. No, this was something deeper. Something much more complicated. I don't understand, she said, trying to keep her voice steady. What opportunity are you talking about? He paused, leaning forward, his eyes intense. I need someone who can think outside the box. Someone who isn't afraid to take risks. You see, Miss Harper, my company is on the brink of a major breakthrough, but I can't do it alone. I need someone with fresh eyes, someone who can help me make decisions that could change the world. And I think you're that person. Her breath caught in her throat. I don't think I'm who you're looking for, she said quickly. I don't have the skills or experience you're probably expecting. I'm just a... He raised a hand, cutting her off. You're much more than you give yourself credit for. I saw it in you the moment you spilled that coffee. It wasn't just the accident. It was how you reacted, how you didn't panic. You took control of a situation that most people would have fallen apart in. That's the kind of mentality I need. So, I'm offering you a chance to join my team. The question is, do you have the courage to take it? She was speechless. She didn't know what to say. This wasn't a job offer, it was a challenge. A challenge that would change everything. The stakes were suddenly higher than anything she had ever faced. She thought about her life, her struggles, her dreams. Was this really happening? Was this a sign that everything was about to change? Or was this some kind of test? Before she could respond, the door to the office slammed open. A tall woman in a sharp suit stormed in, her eyes blazing with anger. Donovan, she snapped. What are you doing? This isn't how we do things. This. She froze as soon as she saw the woman's face. The woman stared at her with an expression of pure shock. You, she gasped. You're the one? Ms. Harper's stomach dropped. She had no idea who this woman was, but there was something about her, something about the way she looked at her, that made her feel like everything was spiraling out of control. And as Donovan watched the exchange unfold, he didn't seem surprised. In fact, he looked almost pleased. What's going on? Ms. Harper asked, her voice trembling, but Donovan just leaned back in his chair, the faintest hint of a smile playing at his lips. I think you're about to find out, he said quietly. And with that, everything she thought she knew about this meeting, and about her future, began to unravel. The woman in the sharp suit glared at Ms. Harper, her eyes narrowing with a mix of disbelief and something deeper, jealousy, maybe? Anger? It was hard to tell, but the tension in the room thickened, suffocating her. I didn't think he'd actually go through with it, the woman muttered, her voice tight. She turned to Donovan, her words clipped. You promised me. We were going to handle this quietly. This wasn't part of the plan. Donovan sat perfectly still, not a hint of unease in his demeanor. He watched the interaction with a detached calm, as though he were watching a game unfold, and he was merely a spectator. "Plans change," he said simply, his eyes flicking from the woman to Miss Harper, before resting on her with a knowing look. "And sometimes, it's the unplanned moments that lead to the greatest opportunities." Ms. Harper's mind was spinning. Was this some sort of setup? Was she being played? For a moment, she thought she might have misunderstood everything. She was just an ordinary girl. She'd spilled coffee on a stranger, and now she was sitting in the office of a CEO, with his mysterious colleague glaring at her like she had just entered a dangerous game. The sudden weight of it all almost crushed her, and she felt as though she might collapse in the chair. But something about Donovan's unwavering gaze, that calm, unnerving confidence, made her hold her ground. The woman stepped closer, her voice low, as though speaking to herself. "I warned you about this, Donovan. You've been playing with fire. And now you've set the whole thing ablaze." Donovan's eyes flicked to the woman, but his smile never wavered. Sometimes, fire is exactly what you need to forge something greater. His gaze shifted back to Ms. Harper. "You see, Ms. Harper, you weren't just in the right place at the right time. You've always had the potential. I knew it the moment I saw you, and I made sure to bring you here for a reason. I needed to see if you had the heart, the courage to take on what's coming." Her heart skipped a beat. "What's coming?" she asked, barely able to keep the tremor out of her voice. The woman's face darkened. "Donovan," she said, her voice a mix of frustration and fear, "you're not seriously thinking about involving her in this, are you? You've lost your mind. This isn't her fight." But Donovan didn't look bothered. If anything, his smile grew more enigmatic. "It's already begun, Julia. And it's her fight whether she wants it or not." He turned to Ms. Harper, his voice now softer, but full of authority. "You see, this company, the future of this entire industry, is about to shift in ways no one could predict. We're on the verge of something big, something revolutionary. But it won't happen without risk. And I need someone like you to take that leap of faith. Because, truth be told, I've been tracking you for a while. Your instincts, your ability to think on your feet, that's exactly what this company needs." Ms. Harper's mind raced. She had no experience, no background in tech, no knowledge of high-level business strategies. How could she be the one to make a difference? She felt the weight of the decision bearing down on her, a decision that could alter the course of her life forever. She opened her mouth, unsure of what to say, but Donovan wasn't done yet. "There's a bigger picture here," he continued, his eyes never leaving hers. "The industry is about to change, and not everyone is going to make it through. We've been working on something secret, something revolutionary, and I need someone who can see past the surface, someone who can understand what we're really trying to do." Julia, still standing by the door, scoffed. "And you're trusting her with that?" Donovan's eyes flicked briefly toward Julia before turning to Ms. Harper. "Yes," he said simply. "Because sometimes the person you least expect is the one who can see what everyone else overlooks." It all hit her in a flash. The weight of his words, the gravity of the situation, and the unexpected truth. She had been chosen for something. She didn't know why, and she didn't know what this was going to cost her, but she could feel the pull of destiny. With her heart racing and her hands trembling, she stood up. "What do I need to do?" she asked, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice. Donovan's smile widened, satisfaction and something more, pride, maybe, flickering in his eyes. "That's the right answer," he said. "There's a project I need you to oversee, something no one else has the vision to tackle. But it won't be easy. You'll have to give everything you have, and even then, it might not be enough. But if you succeed, you'll be part of something bigger than yourself." She didn't know what that meant, or what she had just agreed to, but the spark of excitement started to glow inside her. She had always wondered if she was meant for more. If she was meant for something bigger than the mundane life she had always known. Now, standing in that sleek office, facing the man who had somehow seen something in her, she felt that whisper of possibility. But just as quickly as it had started, it seemed everything was thrown into chaos. Julia slammed her fist onto the desk. "You're making a huge mistake, Donovan. You don't even know her." Suddenly, Donovan's expression changed. His eyes darkened, and for a moment, It seemed like the whole world shifted around them. "I know more about her than you ever will," he said, his voice cold. "And this is my decision, not yours." Julia's face went pale, her lips pressing together in a tight line. She didn't speak again, but her glare could have burned a hole through the wall. Ms. Harper felt a wave of uncertainty rush over her. Was she walking into something dangerous? Something she couldn't control? Donovan was offering her the opportunity of a lifetime, but what was the true cost? As she stood there, caught in the tension of the moment, her phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, glancing at the screen. It was a text from her best friend. "Be careful. I have a feeling you're about to get in way deeper than you think." She read the message again, her heart pounding. Was this a warning? Or a sign that she was meant to go forward with this? Donovan's voice broke through her thoughts. "You don't have to decide right now. But the window is closing fast. Think it over, Miss Harper." And with that, the moment stretched into an eternity, the room filled with possibility, danger, and the thrilling uncertainty of what was to come. One thing was clear, whatever she chose, she would never be the same again. As she walked out of the office, her heart raced. The coffee spill had led her here, to the biggest decision of her life. Would she take the leap into the unknown? Or would she walk away, leaving the chance of a lifetime behind? She didn't know yet, but she was going to find out.